FinTech Festival India. We are halfway through the day and the discussions are heating up. Our next topic discusses insurance as the new custom suit and how embedded and bespoke InsurTech better serves SMEs and enterprise. So moderating this powerful panel is Mr. Aatur Thakkar, co-founder, Alliance Insurance Brokers Private Limited. And joining Aatur on this panel is our star-studded speaker lineup, including Raghuveer, Mallik, Corporate Insurance Head, Policy Bazaar; Abhishek, Poddar, co-founder and Chief Executive Officer, Plum; George Kesselman, Chief Commercial Officer, SEA InsurTech; and Gourav Agarwal, Director, Strategic Partnerships, India Cover Genius. So I'd like to invite all of you on the stage, please. A big round of applause, everyone. So with this, let's hand this panel over to Aatur. Aatur, over to you.
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I think the discussion around focusing on SMEs is what takes center stage today. And chunk of our economy is driven by SMEs, but we still find multiple challenges with regards to the products they need to buy, under insurance, claims, clarity of approach, and the right distribution. I think these are the massive challenges which the SMEs are facing today. And as Alliance, when we look at these policies, we always see a massive difference between what a large corporate buys versus what the SME buys. While what they both need is the same cover. And I want to welcome you guys, as they say, the star-packed panel. And I'm going to have an interesting next 45 minutes focusing on asking some of these pointed questions and getting their perspective on the same. To begin with, Abhishek, I want to ask you, how is the product that the SMEs need today versus what they're getting going to be different going forward? And how is technology going to play a role in ensuring that happens? That's my question to you, Abhishek.
No, thanks. And thanks for everyone for being here. I think when we look at product from two perspectives. One is the underlying insurance product. A lot of times when we are building tech companies, we only think about tech as a product, but when you're building InsurTech, your insurance is the product itself, and then tech is a separate product. So the first product is what is the underlying insurance product, and the second product is how are you leveraging technology to distribute and provide experience. So when you look at the first part, which is what is the underlying insurance product, what has traditionally happened in terms of insurance is insurance underwriting happened either for N is equal to 1, which is one individual, how do you underwrite? All the underwriters would build retail policies, which is for one single individual. And on the other extreme, underwriters were really good in terms of underwriting for a large group. Think of 1,000 people group, 10,000 people group. When you think of SMEs, it falls somewhere in between those two extremes of a retail insurance and a classical group insurance product, and that's where most of the underwriters really struggled. That, hey, if there is an SME of 10 people, 20 people, how do I actually price this product in a way that SMEs get the offerings that they want, but it is also a profitable, a sustainable product? And that was one of the things that we focused a lot on with our insurance partners. So Plum operates as an insurance partner. We have our insurance companies like an ICICI Lombard or a New India in the background that we partner with. But we spent a lot of time with our insurance partners to figure out how do you bridge this gap where you're trying to underwrite for N is equal to 10, N is equal to 20 kind of a group, where you actually offer what a large corporate would need, but at a price point that is also sustainable. So that is one problem to solve for when you're building for SMEs. The second problem is the tech product, right? So when you're looking at SMEs, you cannot build either distribution or service in a way you have built it for large corporates. A large corporate, you can build a large sales force who is reaching out door to door and selling a corporate policy. But SME won't be profitable or won't scale if you just copy paste that same distribution approach in an SME. So when we look at, and same for servicing, right? When you're servicing a large corporate, you can, in a traditional world, you would put one of your team member at the corporate office of that customer to make the servicing happen. But you can't do that for an SME. So when you're thinking of servicing an SME, you have to figure out how do you use technology to enable purchase and then the claims experience and the servicing experience for the SME. When you think of purchase, how do you build completely online pricing experience and underwriting experience, for example, that can help you drastically lower your cost of acquisition of that SME. When you think of claims experience, how do you make sure that you don't have to put the people in the office of that customer? The employees can understand the insurance and use the insurance maybe from your mobile app. Similarly, for an HR who is using your product or your organization to manage their insurance, how do you make sure, again, you use technology to allow them to, let's say, add or remove employees or manage their insurance? So that's the second aspect that we look at, which is how do you use technology to enable the similar kind of workflows that were happening in an offline world, but in a way it is more efficient, more scalable, and more tuned to what SMEs need. So those are two approaches that we take, which is one is look at the insurance product and then look at technology.
I think that's very interesting what you're saying. Just to add to that, and I'm happy to open this to the rest of the panelists. The strength you're talking about is the experience and the pricing and the underwriting getting live on the platform. And the question is to the panelists, how easy this is to achieve. While this is all that we want, and we understand this is what the customer would enjoy experiencing, are insurance companies really ready to let this power off their arsenal, let's put it that way, and give the trigger in your hands? Anyone who wants to take this up?
I'll give a 10-second answer and then Raghu should answer. I think Policy Bazaar has had an inspirational journey so far. I think what Policy Bazaar did for retail products in the last decade, which was pushing the insurance companies to build the tech that is required in the business of insurance. I would say a lot of similar things we are trying to do in the business of employer-employee insurance. 2 years ago, if you had asked me this question, none of the insurers had any technology when it comes to any of these aspects of be it pricing, underwriting, or servicing. But now insurance companies, a lot of insurance companies have built it or are in the process of building it. But a lot of credit goes to organizations like Policy Bazaar that push that envelope in the very early days in other kind of products.
Fantastic.
Thanks for that. But if you look at India as compared to, let's say, markets like Singapore, right? One of the largest problems over here is that this kind of digitization is not a luxury for us. It's a necessity. अगर आपको बिलासपुर में इंश्योरेंस बेचना है, and if you have 32 insurance companies का branches, it's just not going to be profitable for all 32 of them, or at least 30 out of 32 of them. So you have to digitize the experience, as Abhishek mentioned, both at a distribution layer as well as at a service layer. Now, typically when we look at whether it's easy or hard, I think is different from product to product and insurer to insurer. If I had to rate it on a scale, I would say 8 on 10 in terms of ease.
That's very encouraging.
And it's about following a particular path, right? How do you co-create products that are relevant for your audience using data that you've seen on the demand side, make them over the counter, easily purchasable online, and flexible in nature? And the second part, I think, is what, let's say, Abhishek's product team or the product teams at Policy Bazaar would be focused on, which is once that product has been created. Now, in SME, what you're also doing is you're trying to create awareness and knowledge. The person may not know why he needs to buy a fire policy or what they need in that fire policy. The person may not know exactly what clauses should be in their cyber policy, right? Whether pre-existing diseases should be covered in a GMC policy. So a large part of what our product teams also work on is to make sure that the journey is very educational, and then 3 clicks to be able to buy a policy on the website. So I would say India as a market over the last 10 years has become, the insurers have become fairly easy to get these kind of products created from.
George, you want to take that up? 3 clicks. I think we're trading in the number of clicks in the business which we are now. You want to take that up, George?
So So my perspective is more coming from the ASEAN and outside of India, and I think we are seeing that there's a lot of interest in this area and a lot of also kind of a pickup, especially from your question about the insurer side. There's a lot of interest from the insurers to say, how do we innovate in this area? This has been something that they were not able to touch very closely. But it is something that is picking up, and on the technology side, is becoming a much more viable area for innovation. And both the product side and the technology side are the gaps that are being closed. But I think it sounds like because of the scale that India has, I think naturally you have an advantage in it. And I think there's a lot more happening here. And I think it's in some ways probably a couple of years ahead of the rest of the region as well.
Thank you. Gourav, what are your views on it?
See, as we all agree that digitization is must, because technology is something that can give you the scalability. Right now, if you look at the role of the InsurTech, on the distribution side and on the supply side, where the role of insurance company becomes really important, we all need to work as a partner. The moment, if you think we are acting as a competitor, then it's not easy to give the control to other party. Once you understand that there is something that InsurTech brings on the table and can help you increase the yield, insurers are willing to do what you expect from them to do. And that's where if we start collaborating more, we will see a lot of favorable outcomes for the customers.
Fantastic. Audience, I think they all agree that the product is better now. They agree the technology is great. They agree the experience is good. The panel agrees we're trading in the world of clicks. But what, I can dance well, but what happens if nobody buys the tickets? Who's going to see that performance? So my next question is to Raghu, and then I'm going to open up to the panelists, is how do you bring this beautiful dance to the customers? How do you create the distribution around it? How do you create this great product and great technology to a doorstep of somebody who in the SME world is driven by entrepreneurs and promoters who only understand profit and loss? So how are you going to make that guy who's operating on a desktop while you are coding on a MacBook? And how is he going to buy that product? And what's your distribution strength? That's my question to you, Raghu.
So if we just take a step back, right, and analyze what is the, where are so many of us, why are so many of us getting into this space at the same time? Why is everybody focusing on MSME from an insurance standpoint within a span of 3 to 4 years? You're talking about one of the most underpenetrated markets in a large segment called insurance, in potentially the fastest growing large economy in the world, right? Within which your standard MSME, so if you actually get into your 65 million and break it down into micro, small and medium, you find that a majority of them are sitting in the micro category. So what we are trying to solve for is low ticket size, high frequency products. How do you ensure that you are able to distribute them while also making some money, right? Because fundamentally, if you're not building a business, it's a vanity project. It'll die in 24 to 48 months. How we go about this is, look, we've done this before, right? We've done this for retail health. We've done this for retail term. We've done this for retail motor. And just as a statistic, a significant double-digit percentage of our retail customers are also MSMEs, right? It is an entrepreneur or a service, a self-employed person buying a retail policy for themselves. We have a playbook. It's very simple. Step one, analyze your demand. Understand what your customer is asking for. Work very, very closely with the insurance companies to co-create products to match relevance. Make sure they are OTC in nature, over-the-counter in nature. Once that is done, ensure that the user journey is incredibly simple. If in doubt, make it simpler. As George was asking me that you all seem to have a very large advisory team or a call center, we do find that in India today, from a distribution perspective, just putting a product out there and leaving it for people to consume does not seem to work for a majority of the product types. Customers still do need to be made aware about product contours, which means there's an element of advisory, right? And then the third step to it comes in terms of distribution of the framework that you've built out, which is the product and the UI UX. I can tell you that, see, we receive between 1,000 to 2,000 inquiries a day organically, right? Which is without any spend. So the demand is out there. As India becomes a more litigious society, as uncertain events like COVID wake us up from our slumber, people have started to realize कि अगर मैं 10 साल 15 साल मेहनत करके, if I'm building out a business and one event wipes out all the effort that I've put in over a decade and a half, look, it's okay to pay 125 rupees a month. It's okay to pay 5,000 rupees a year to insure it. So the demand is out there. As long as we are able to contextualize the product to that demand and make it very simple for a customer to buy, there's not much more to it. Sorry.
Yeah, no. No, but Raghu, thank you for that. Gourav, I want you to take this up. He says demand hai, make it simple, keep an advisory model, and people will buy it. What is your mantra of distribution?
See, as Cover Genius, we are primarily an insurance distribution company. We embed insurance within the path of the transaction. We protect the customers of world's largest digital companies at the point of sale or sign up. What we essentially do is, when the customer is making the primary transaction or the core transaction or buying a core product, then we exactly know what is the context and then make it discoverable to the customer within the same path. That's where it becomes very easy for customer to select the product. So as he mentioned that advisory is equally important, but when you talk of the bite-sized product, the purchase is possible when the customer is buying the core product, not the post-purchase of the core product. That's where the role of new alternative channels of distributions are also emerging. For example, our X-Core, our core distribution platform, which is X-Cover, which enables world's largest digital companies on a single API call. One API call can return any product in any country. We support 90 plus currencies when it comes to the payment. Just imagine a customer like Booking.com consuming one single API and is able to offer insurance in 90 plus countries. How easy it is for a consumer to consume and how easy it is for a partner like Booking.com to place. In embedded insurance, insurance is actually purchased. It is not sold. And that is what we are trying to simplify. And that's where these channels of distribution are going to play a huge role in generating next line of revenue for insurers as well.
George, he says timing is everything. Embed it, plug it along with the primary product, and create a alternate distribution model. What's your view?
I think it's a very, very interesting question because what we're seeing happening more and more is that the natural platforms where the SMEs come together, like either banks or HR platforms, are the ones that are coming in together with the insurance companies sometimes to say that they have big groups of SMEs and they are looking for this kind of solutions on the SME insurance. So I think that embedded nature of it is exactly a correct way of looking at it. And I think it doesn't go contrary to the whole hypothesis of this advisory and assisted sales, because one of it is about discovery of the product, and I think a lot of the SMEs might have heard of the insurance, but they might not have encountered it. And it's just kind of like, it's not among the top priorities. It's probably right now is not the top 5 priorities. Unless they start to see it more and more, like for example, when they open the HR platform, or if they open their payments app that they use to pay out the employees or receive the invoices. So that awareness is going to be something that I think is very critical, and that's why I think it's very interesting that these platforms are seeing that as an opportunity. And from there, once they see that, I think this is where the whole advisory piece, assisted piece comes in as well, because it's definitely not just the technology component where it's, click here and then you have the SME insurance. I think we all recognize that it's a much bigger piece probably, and then there's going to be components that could be fully technologically enabled, but a lot of it is also something that requires processes, requires operations, and the kind of assistance on the back of it as well.
Abhishek, what's your view? Do you have a contrary view or you agree with them?
No, I would agree. I think a lot of what Raghu mentioned in terms of the demand that exists and how do you create a very simple process to make sure you're able to capture that demand. So I won't repeat that. I think just one of the things that we have also learned along the way is, see, insurance as a product is a very unique product. I think there are two products in the world where you pay the entire money in advance for a future promise. One is insurance and second is a fixed deposit or any kind of banking. Right, which means, and the future promise is someone will pay you, let's say, 5 lakh rupee, or someone will pay you an interest. And for you to command that from the customer, you have to create a lot of trust with the customer. Otherwise, the customer won't give you that money in advance. Most of the other products, you take the service and then you pay them, right? And hence, you don't need that trust. But insurance fundamentally requires a lot of trust building. And we as a country, and I think this is more of a global phenomena, but India specifically, there is a loss of trust. There's a lot of trust deficit that exists when it comes to customers and the insurance companies. And when you're building an insurance company and when you're building insurance distribution, it's, I think, one of the most fundamental things that we have to do is build that trust. And how do you build trust? You have to first provide that kind of experience to the customers that leads to building that brand. So that when someone, let's say you have done everything right in terms of building awareness, creating that demand, people coming to your platform, people talking to your advisor, but that person should inherently trust that, hey, Plum is the right platform. I can go ahead and trust this platform and pay the insurance premium for my 10 people company because I know they will take care of us for the next 1 year. So fundamentally, we spend a lot of hours, spend a lot of effort in building that trust, which eventually leads to building a brand.
Fantastic. I think all of them have given their view. Let me go to the next segment in terms of we've covered the product, we've covered the journey, we've covered the distribution, but all this is for whom? All this is for the customer. I want to ask this question, and that question goes to Gourav. Gourav, how is the experience of the customer different than what he has been historically experiencing in the physical world, where he had somebody coming down to his place, looking into his eyes, telling him, don't worry, main hu na, versus the clicks doing the job? Can you give me an insight on that?
Right. So now historically what has been happening, someone is coming to you and has been pushing for a product that may be relevant to you, may not be relevant to you. The push is determined by the factor what is the commission available to the agent. And suddenly at the time of claim you find that agent is not there to help you. An insurer is saying, look, you didn't buy this. Right? So there was a disconnect between what product customer had bought, what perception he had in his mind, and what actually was the product. How do you try to simplify all this? The embedded actually becomes a great solution, not only in digital world, but at the same time in physical world also. If you look at Indian market, it's a mix of online and offline model. The customer preferences are definitely changing. Customer is going towards online. If you look at the purchases of grocery or e-commerce, rise in e-commerce transaction, digital payments. But there is another set of model that is also emerging, is called offline to online. There is definitely a role of physical world as well, but the context is very, very important. As we earlier discussed also, the timing. If I'm trying to buy a mobile handset and if I try to utilize that relationship to sell a life insurance product, that doesn't work. The context is there. If you try to enable the product, which are highly contextual, embedded within the path of the journey of the agent who is trying to sell that product, along with the core products, definitely there is a lot that can be achieved. On the embedded side, online, obviously, there is a lot of scope to acquire the first-time insurance buyers by offering them the products they want, not what we are trying to push. And as we also discussed about a servicing element, that comes into picture because that is something that can help you reduce that trust deficit that is associated with insurance buying. The reason embedded insurance becomes very, very important, not only for SMEs, but for the enterprise, because when the customer is making a purchase on that platform, customer is trusting that platform more than the insurer. Hence, the role of the simplified customer journeys, how can customer claim, how do you ensure that customer is always paid in time, becomes very, very important. As Cover Genius, I'm proud to say that we have the leading industry NPS of plus 65 across the globe. Because if the customer is at the core, that is the bread and butter for each and every one. Hence, all the models, online, offline, they will coexist. It's about how do you ensure you are present at the right time, how the discoverability is happening, and how you are trying to give customer the products that customer want. We recently did a FinTech survey with some of the financial institutions customers. 91% of the customers of digital banks responded that they would like to receive an embedded insurance offer from their bank. 95% of the customers from traditional bank wanted the embedded insurance offer from their banks. 63% customers said that convenience is the only factor because they do not want to go to the second step of buying after the journey is over. How to reduce the number of clicks, the point I'm trying to discuss. And around 85% of the customers said that since they trust their banks the most, they will be more than happy to buy anything from the banks. Hence, customer is also looking for the offers which are relevant to the customer. So instead of giving customer the cookie cutter products, if we can create the products that are actually relevant to the customer, and in real time we can offer that particular product basis the customer preference, I think that is the kind of model that has to emerge.
Yeah, I think to summarize, give him what he needs in a platform which he trusts, rather than serving him what you want to serve him. That's in a nutshell. George, you want to add something to that?
I think it's exactly the correct train of thought, and I agree with Gourav. I think that's the direction it's going to evolve. I think the overarching question right now is that what is that silver bullet product for SMEs? I think that's where everybody's right now trying to figure out, is it going to be something to do with health of employees? Is it going to be something to do with the companies themselves being, property related? So everybody, I think, is in mindset right now of trying to find this universal product, and it does look like generally health of employees is the kind of a natural product that everybody worries about, and I think it's over the last 2 years has been very much highlighted. So I think if we put ourselves in the shoes of a SME and say, like, what is their problem, it feels like that's naturally one of the biggest pain points for them right now, to make sure that their employees feel safe, feel protected during this period, and then are able to do the best and therefore allow the SMEs to grow and progress.
Raghu, you want to take this?
So I think coming back to your original question, right? The whole Mehuna, I'm there with you. That used to be true of restaurants, but we don't really bother too much when we order on Zomato and see the rating and buy from them. That used to be true of your family taxi stand, but now you don't call, Rupinder ji in my case, to ask for a taxi. You call your Uber ji, right? The same thing is true of, buying a mobile phone. You had your favorite guy who was in your favorite, shop, who gave you a good deal, gave you a nice cup of tea when every second or third year or fourth year you went to buy your mobile phone from them. Today you use Amazon. So I feel that somewhere or the other, as consumers, to a large extent, we have become used to a digital experience. We have started trusting an online medium for purchase. The second point that I want to kind of try and cover here, right, is that like to George's point, our belief is that there may not be a silver bullet. There may not be some new, very drastically different product that will be created. Whether I am an SME or whether I am, Reliance Group, I have fire risk, I have burglary risk, I have asset risk, I have liability risk, I have employee risk. it's the same risk. It's just that the scale is lower. And for Policy Bazaar or Plum or anybody else in the market to say that, okay, for your 5,000 rupee policy on which I earn 500 rupees, I will come and meet you and then I will come and service you, becomes very hard, right? So if anybody really wants to crack the MSME space, I think what you'll have to build out is layers. That, okay, if I want to buy, how do I buy with, if I had to have a 4-hour conversation with somebody to buy a policy, now how do I talk for only half an hour? That too only if I really want to. And how do I ensure that 3.5 hours of work is covered through my customer journey and content? Or if I want to claim, how do I make sure that I'm not sitting and asking repetitive questions because my explanation is already given on my app, on my claim app, or on my WhatsApp bot, or on my HR portal, right? I don't need to go and dig some email that was sent to me 9 months back by some TPA or insurer whose name I do not remember, saying, okay, this is the phone number to call when you need to file a claim. So how do I make the process simpler, assisted with manpower on the back end? Because again, nobody makes a claim when they're in a very happy frame of mind. A claim comes up when my shop is burned down or my my family is in the hospital or I'm in the hospital. So you need to have the human element. And the third part that I want to add here is that, see, everything that you build for the SME can eventually and will eventually be used for the enterprise as well. So we started integrating with HR portals, right? With SAP, with Oracle, with Darwinbox, saying that, I can't sit and have a team that is sitting and taking endorsement requests for an EB policy from clients on a monthly basis. But today I use that at Axis Bank. I use that at, the country's largest EdTech company, the country's largest, delivery. Similarly, there are other aspects. If I create a WhatsApp claims bot for a small client, the same thing becomes useful for a large enterprise as well. So the ability to run a business with lower service cost per capita and a lower sales cost per capita is the main aim that I feel digitization brings to the table.
Fantastic. Abhishek?
I think just to add to what Raghu said, Raghu talked about how do you simplify the process to lower the cost of purchase and servicing. I think the other thing to think about is the persona of the customer. If you are selling it to a large corporate, someone who is purchasing these policies would have probably done this for the last 10 years. They can go into the details of every single word that is written in the policy. They have that capability, they have that time as well to invest into it. Versus when you are selling it to a SME who is purchasing it for the first time, who don't understand any of these complexities of the insurance policies. So what also matters is not just simplifying the process, but also simplifying your underlying insurance product, where they can understand the product, hopefully in the 5 to 10 minutes they are on your website or they are talking to your advisor. And then at the time of claims, they should not be confused or they should not be surprised to see, hey, I thought certain things are covered, but now I get to know that it is not covered. There shouldn't be any surprises when it comes to claims. So I would say simplify the product as well and not just the process.
Thank you. This is my last question to the panelists, and post which, we would open up for questions from the audience. The question, George, is to you. And this is from our personal experience at Alliance. We settle claims in excess of $180 million a year, every year. And the entire capital today is being driven towards product, technology, and distribution. I want to understand, is technology going to play an equally important role, according to you, from a claim settlement point of view? Or is going to be at a center stage of distribution, product simplification, ease of buying, and claims will continue to remain a sticky issue? What's your view on it, and what have you been able to achieve it globally?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question, and I think this is a question that the regulator in Singapore, when we had a last event there, raised exactly that question. He said it was his experience was he's bought an insurance, fantastic experience buying insurance. Then he went to claim insurance. 1 year later, he is still waiting for his claim. He said, you guys need to really worry about the claims. Please focus on that. So I think that's the same message from the priority standpoint. Of course, everybody initially focuses on the distribution, how easy it is to activate insurance, how easy it is to adjust insurance, all those kind of things that are first degree priorities. But I think the claims, if you think about it, are the real product of insurance. When somebody buys insurance, they're not buying a piece of paper that makes them easier to sleep at night, but they're buying something that is a promise of a claim in the future. So if we don't apply technology to claims, I think it would be a very big shortcoming, because the process will remain broken at the back. And then very quickly, especially on the things like employee benefits, health insurance, people will realize that what they're buying is a crappy product. And once they realize that, very quickly the growth and the purchases from SMEs will stop or will slow down, because they're just not going to be interested to buy this product. It's going to be considered to be a broken product. So from a claim perspective, what we've seen work the best is that, again, create a very easy experience for the customer from a technology perspective to at least initiate the claims. We all know about things like the straight-through processing of claims, simple claims, low value, applying artificial intelligence to basically say, we've approved 99% of these claims before. Why do we need to ask 25 questions for the customer to be able to, for the employee, for example, to be able to claim this? It should be paid out automatically. It should be settled, and ideally, actually, it should be prepaid so that the employee doesn't need to take any money out. So I think it's still relatively early days, because it feels like the SME space have not really taken off to a point where there's a critical mass for us to be able to have enough data to solve for this. But I would say that the foundations are there. Definitely the technology needs to play a big role in the claims component as well.
Thank you, George. I personally believe insurance companies not only need to plot their results of revenue and premium, but also turnaround time on claims. But anyways, I'm not sharing my thoughts right now. Going to Abhishek. Abhishek, what's your view on this? Abhishek?
See, if you have chosen insurance as a domain to build your company, claims is the holy grail, right? You cannot build an insurance company without building a claims experience, because that's when the rubber really hits the road. When we started Plum, we thought, hey, we will solve everything through technology. I think our learning has been that, especially when it comes to claims, you cannot solve everything through technology. So the way we look at claims right now is, it is technology-led but human-assisted. People are at a hospital in an emergency. No matter how sleek your technology is, they still would want to talk to a human end of the day. So how do you use technology to educate and to simplify the process, but still have the best of the humans possible to help out people when they need it? But when it comes to technology, currently the largest portion of our tech investment actually goes into claims. The policy purchase, pricing, everything is much, much smaller than the investment that we are making in claims, because if you don't solve claims correctly, you're not building a long-term company. It's impossible to build a long-term company.
Gourav, embedded products in claims?
Right. So our approach is very simple. Whenever we partner with a large partner or a partner who is trying to enable SMEs, for example, Flipkart, MakeMyTrip, Amazons of the world, we bring the entire solution on the table, which not only simplifies the distribution and customer journeys, but also simplifies the claims journey. When you are trying to build the claim journeys, in advance you know what product did customer purchase and what are the different features for which customer can come to you for claims. Now, there is absolutely no need for you to seek a lot of information, because most of the information is already there with you. How do you simplify those journeys where customer just comes, selects from a drop-down, mentions the incident, let's say if the product is parametric, customer doesn't even need to claim. So when you talk of the insurance, as Abhishek rightly mentioned, that if you are operating in insurance domain, then you need to definitely solve for the moment of truth. Insurance journey, distribution journeys, yes, they are one of the part, but the most important thing is the claims journeys, and that's where we play a huge role in solving those journeys, and the reason we command such a high NPS score of plus 65.
Thank you. Raghuveer?
Fundamentally, as a broker, you're not there to only generate business for insurance companies, right? And hence, I believe that the actual claim journey starts a lot earlier. Now, I could explain your product to you with a 30-page document in 9 font and get you to click I accept all at the end of it, right? Or I could simplify it, present it to you in the right manner, tell you what are the inclusions and the exclusions, make sure that I do a tele-verification call at the end of it, make sure that if required, and it's a very risky product where mis-selling can happen very easily, I even do a video verification call with you. Make sure that my communication is not just on email. I send you a nice blurb on WhatsApp. I send you a nice IVR call, automated call to you and your employees, explaining the policy to you. So one of the largest banks in the country is our client. We got IVR calling done in 8 languages to about 320,000 people in that policy, right? So claims, as far as we are concerned, starts at a much earlier stage. Now, I'll just mention one more incident, right? When we got into this business, I think in the first 3 months, I would have paid through Google Pay money to at least 8 or 9 people who were in the hospital saying, this insurer is not passing my cashless, I'm not going to pay. And, all I had to do was ask my employee, okay, what is the case? Is it straightforward? Fine. Tell the person in the hospital, sir, I will pay the 30,000 rupees. When you get the money from the insurance company or the hospital, please pay me back. Out of 8, 6 paid me back. But the point is that now what we are doing is we are creating a co-branded credit card with one of the larger banks in the country, wherein, look, I have your documents. I know what is a part of your policy. I can and we work with TPAs as well. So between the 3 of us, the 3 parties involved, even if the insurer is going to take 10 days, 15 days to validate your claim, because finally the money is coming out of their process, their pockets. As long as I can validate that, Raghuveer went to the hospital for a knee surgery, well in advance, informed us, legitimate hospital, the payment is within the bracketed range that is typically there for a knee surgery in that hospital, number of injections, etc. sab sahi hoga end mein, I can pretty much clear a person out of a hospital in half an hour, technically. So now we are trying to make that happen. So I feel that when it comes to claims, there are certain things that are not possible because you're talking about a very large ecosystem. You're talking about hospitals and clinics and insurance companies, and it's a world problem. And it's actually very comforting to hear from George that it's a problem in more developed markets as well. But there are a lot of things that as brokers or as advisors or as digital players, you can start doing from point 0, which is when you're advising the customer the product that you're selling to them.
Thank you so much. I think for the audience, we need great products. They need to be easy. They need to be competitive in their pricing. The number of clicks need to be as small as possible. I'm very happy to hear a lot of investment is now going in claim settlements. I'm very happy to know insurance companies are more than happy to behave like partners from a distribution point of view. I'm very happy to know that there is investments being made in terms of strengthening distribution because of the penetration of the country being low. And last but not the least, there is more and more capital which is entering the system for various reasons, which is going to help SMEs, enterprises, individuals, insurance companies take our penetration, settlement ratios, and create jobs and revenue the industry needs in a very, very aggressive environment. I'm now more than happy to open to the audience if anybody needs to have any questions for any one of us, and we would be happy to answer. Can we have the mics, please, shared with our guests in the audience, please?
Can you hear me? Hello? How about now? All right.
Can you stand up? That will be better for everybody to know.
Yeah, thanks so much. That was pretty insightful. So I had a question to your point, Abhishek, earlier on. Can you hear me now? So I had a question to your point earlier on about, in this semi-automation point that you made about you would want to talk to a human at the end of the day. Do you think that's true today as well as probably 20 years later when a new generation, Gen Z plus, if you call it, would be, do they also experience the same thing, or do you see that shift in transition over a period of time?
No, that's a great question. The consumer behavior is definitely changing, right? I think if you look at just e-commerce as an example, and if you ask 10 years ago, would people swipe their credit card for a 1 lakh phone on an online platform? They wouldn't, but today they will because they have built that trust and they have also built that experience of, hey, just open an app and order something. So I think the same will happen when it comes to insurance in the next 10 to 20 years. But you have to give that time to the market to adopt that technology and build trust with that technology. If you expect the market to behave in a certain way right away, that wouldn't happen. And that's the reason we are building human-assisted, tech-led and human-assisted. But when we think of building technology, we are assuming that at some point in time, maybe today it is, let's say, 50% human, 50% tech. 2 years from now, it's maybe 80% tech, 20% human, and that percentage will keep going down over the next decade.
Yes, I have a friend on the first row.
Yeah, hi. I want to have a sense on how fast is the customer base for all of you growing from the especially small business perspective? How fast is the segment growing?
The question is, how fast is this
SME customer base growing for insurance products?
So, if you're talking about it from an interest perspective, or you're talking about it from a, what is the demand? What is the...
The demand, and also for your own customer base who's reaching out to you and buying your products.
Correct. So if I have to look at, let's say, for example, how many inquiries we get in a month as a metric to answer your question. Same time last year and this year, we would be at about 3x of last year with maybe a 20% to 30% increase in spend. So I think the awareness that there are multiple players in the market who are willing to support with a solution is out there. Secondly, I think today between all of us, right? If you Google, I want health insurance for my employees. Is that your question? No.
Individually, all of you.
Okay, let me take that up. Yeah. So let's talk about what Alliance does. We run a business called Elephant. Elephant.in. It's our SME InsurTech platform. In the last 6 months, it has been able to provide quotes to almost 40,000 MSMEs, and the conversion ratios has been around 25%. So that's the kind of numbers she's looking at. I think that should be, and Elephant is not a health-centric platform. It provides fire insurance, it provides marine insurances, it provides health insurances, group health insurances as well. So because maybe it's focused on not a monoline product for the MSMEs, it looks at addressing all requirements of MSMEs. What an agent or a small broker was providing on a 360-degree basis, that's what Elephant does for MSMEs. So, it basically endorses what all 4 friends of ours have been speaking, that this is the future, and some of it is pure tech, some of it is assisted tech, and as Abhishek mentioned, the ratios would keep changing as we move forward. And as Gourav mentioned about the embedded tech piece, I think that's a very interesting area. Internationally, what tech is doing, that's what George brought on board. And Raghuveer, of course, has been, very expressly telling you about the demand, the natural demand without spending a dollar that he's been getting on his platform.
Am I audible?
Yes, please go on.
Sachin, this side from IIT Delhi. So I have a question. About customer acquisition. So when we see the MSMEs who are seeking always money, they should pay money for insurance? How we ensure that customer acquisition happens, and how you see the opportunity in terms of that you collaborate with lending platforms who provide loans to SMEs, and then you integrate the products. How you see these two things?
Can I divert this question to someone on your behalf? Raghu, you want to take this? Yeah.
So I think the first question in terms of why should an MSME pay for it is very simple. यार मतलब I'm obviously insuring an asset or against liability. तो अगर मैं 1 करोड़ की चीज़ खरीदूंगा तो और अगर वो जल गई तो मेरा ज़्यादा नुकसान होगा. अगर मैं थोड़ा सा पैसा दे के उसको इंश्योर करा दूँ मेरा कम नुकसान होगा. राइट. सिमिलरली अगर मैं अपना साइबर इंश्योरेंस नहीं लूँ और कल आके कोई मेरा सारा डेटा चोरी कर ले और मेरे ऊपर लीगल सूट पे लीगल सूट लगते रहे, मेरा ज़्यादा नुकसान होगा. अगर मैं साइबर इंश्योरेंस ले लूँ मेरा कम नुकसान होगा. सो समवेयर इट इज़ अ कवर against a potential risk that you foresee. Similarly with employee insurance, etc. Sorry, I didn't get the second part of your question.
So like how you see the opportunity in terms of collaborating with other partners, like
correct. So I think that's a large element of what like I think Abhishek can talk about this a lot as well, but we do this with
Gourav does a lot of embedded. Let's push this to him.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So let me take a couple of examples. So there are new banks trying to target SMEs, right? So they are a perfect distribution partner to reach out to these SMEs. There are Kirana Tech, or what you call a retail tech companies emerging, trying to digitize their accounting operations or trying to give other services. They are your perfect partner to reach out to these SMEs. And then there are players who are trying to cater to the explicit need of the SMEs who are into exports by getting into invoice discounting or export financing. So there are multiple channels that exist in this market where you can collaborate and enable these SMEs to adopt relevant insurance product. And as Raghu mentioned, insurance is part of your financial planning. It is never a liability. It can only benefit you in long term. It is never a liability.
I think we got time for just 2 last questions. Is that okay? Okay, 1 last question. Or maybe just, let's make it 2. Okay, please.
Okay, I'll make it quick. So this is regarding claims, right? So there is an institutional kind of trust deficit when it comes to claims between insured and insurer, right? For the insured, we feel that the intuition is to deny the claim at first shot, right? Rather than, and it's always suspicion. On the other side, the insured will feel that, how many hoops are you going to make me jump through just in order to settle the claim? So my question is, how is technology going to help bridge this trust deficit, if at all? Or do you think we'll have to still endure more human interface in this? Because sometimes that doesn't work in claims.
Yeah, no, I think, when it comes to trust deficit, I don't think it's human. I think, to me, there are 2 parts of it. One is, how do you build technology and process to simplify the terms and conditions upfront when someone is purchasing the insurance? And Raghu touched upon it, is your claims journey actually start at the time of purchase and not when someone is at the hospital, right? If you actually do the job right at the time of purchase by simplifying the process and by making it as transparent as possible, it's half the battle won. The second part is, then what is the kind of experience that you're delivering at the time of claims, right? A lot of times what happens is, the insurer doesn't have any intention to deny the claims. It is just the process that is broken, where the insurer is asking maybe 10 documents for a small 10,000 rupees claim. And that is what typically frustrates the customer, saying, hey, maybe the insurer doesn't have the intention to pay the claim and they're asking for 10 documents, while the insurer didn't have any such intention. The insurer is just following the process. So how do you simplify the process? And George touched upon it by talking about some of the AIs that you can build, where you can say, hey, maybe for a 10,000 rupees claim, the process is a one-step process rather than a 10-step process. But maybe for a 1 lakh claim, there is a 10-step process, right? So how do you simplify the process at the time of the claim? And then a third step to it is you have to then talk about the kind of experience that you have delivered so that new people who have never experienced your product can also hear from your existing customers that, hey, let's say Plum as a platform actually provided a great experience, and hence I can trust Plum because someone else was able to get that experience.
Hi, I'm Saurabh. I'm a part of Aatur's team. So I would like to check with all four of you. We have experienced and witnessed a platform based on the lines of business, say fire, engineering, or maybe marine or cyber. Can't it be, made occupancy-wise, say on the lines of business, for an export house, for microfinancing company, say for manufacturing unit? If such sort of tech platforms can be built upon, it can attract more customers than maybe we are going lines of business per se.
So I think, sorry, if I can just get this very quickly. So if you look at it from a digital perspective, right, you do both. So we have landing pages which are occupancy specific, and then we have landing pages which are product specific. A, it helps us to increase our SEO score. B, it helps us to actually genuinely serve the customers in the right manner. So if I come on Google and search for fire insurance policy online, I may go straight to the fire insurance page. If I come on Google and search for export house insurance is required, or doctors personal indemnity, professional indemnity required, I may be directed to more of a page which is relevant for doctors, where I will be told, okay, now tell me about what kind of work you do. Do you work in your own unit? Do you work in a hospital? And what kind of a liability are you looking to insure yourself against? And you go through the process. So I feel that you're absolutely correct. Some of the examples that I've seen internationally have been occupancy-wise and not product-wise. The advantage of doing it digitally is you can do both.
Guys, we got to call this a session. But I want to thank each one of you all the panelists, and all of them are available for you to ask questions offline once they're off the stage. Thank you so much for being here, and guys, thank you so much for being very good panelists. Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, what an eye-opener this session was. Thank you for taking time out and joining us today, all of you. So a huge round of applause for all our panelists.